Now, if you're just joining us, we're talking about getting your groove back post the lockdown, and we're looking at family, work, finances, and of course, mental health. And the hashtag is The Beat Goes On UG, and UG is uppercase. I have three amazing guests this evening. I have Miranda Bagene-Musoke. Now, Miranda is a wife. She's been a wife for 9 years. She's been doing this wife thing for 9 years. Now, if you're married, you'll appreciate that being a wife for 9 years is not that easy, especially if you have to juggle it with a career in banking, okay? So Miranda is a wife for 9 years. She's a mother of 3 young children, and she's a seasoned career banker with dfcu Bank. So Miranda leads a team of close to 300 people, both directly and indirectly. So our next guest today is Robert Wanok. Robert is also a husband. He's a father of 3 girls. He's a seasoned banker. And Robert heads dfcu's personal and business banking unit, which places about 629, roughly 630 people under his leadership. That's over half a million people under his leadership. Now, our last, but certainly not least, panelist today is Grace Linda Navatanzi. Now, Grace is a mother of 2. She's a wife, but Grace is also a professional counselor. She has devoted her life and her time to listening to people and helping them walk through different situations in their lives. So to get the conversation started, everyone has a COVID-19 lockdown story, right? Even you guys who are tuning in right now has a COVID lockdown story. Some people's stories are exciting, and some people would rather forget these stories. But I'd like to start with you, Miranda. What's your story?
So my lockdown story is interesting. If I was to speak about the highs, I think one of the biggest highs has been being able to see my home environment during the day, both in the morning and in the evening for 2 months straight. I mean, that has never happened. I moved into this home 2 years ago, slightly over 2 years ago. I haven't had the opportunity to be on maternity leave in that time. So this has been the first time that I've actually seen my home, seen my kids during the day for 2 months in a row. And it's been an interesting experience.
I must say, for me, it's been an interesting journey. I'm a very morning person, and I'm normally up by about 5 a.m. and on the road at about 5:45. So I'm typically in office about 6:30, 6:20, and it's now been an adjustment because the lockdown is a dusk to dawn, and by 6 a.m. you're still locked down. So having to adjust to waking up that early I'm still like a cock. I wake up and I'm awake, and the whole house is up and lit. So having to adjust to that for me has been quite an interesting journey, but it also gave me the realization that there's more to life. I've gotten to use that time and formed myself into a workout community, an online workout community, with a couple of other guys that work out at the Kabira Club. And for me, the takeaway has been having to lose 4 kilos. And then spending time with the kids, just getting them transformed now from a normal hustle and bustle, wake up, run up to school, be in school by about 6:45, now to more of homeschooling.
I'm so happy to be here. I just got off another call. I think for me, it started with, I would say, frustration, because most of my clients prefer the physical engagement, because then you're in touch with all their emotions. So I started with frustration, but slowly it moved on to, I think, gratitude. For me, it has been gratitude, because I have never been this busy.
So let's talk family and work specifically. Miranda, how can we keep safety top of mind, especially since a lot of us will now potentially be exposed to the threat of infection, and in turn put our families at risk as we come back into the workplace, into the businesses, into the markets? How can we ensure that we keep safety top of mind?
Okay, I'll speak first for those of us who are in formal employment. I think as we get back into normal business, it's really the responsibility of the employer to make sure that people feel like the environment is safe, and that the employer actually is addressing their concerns and their fears at this time. And one of the ways that we can do that is probably also to continuously remind people about how to follow the guidelines, how to keep safe, how to practice better health habits. So employers have a responsibility in as far as keeping it top of mind, like you say. And that could be through communication. And then also, we probably have to invest in better ways of managing maybe cleanliness in the office space. We have to come up with ways to encourage social distancing. These are all things changes that have to be made. And with the continuous discussion and talk about it, then everybody will think about it. It's funny you mentioned as we go back to work, throughout this lockdown time, I was the only person leaving work in my home. Mm-hmm. And my husband was very serious about these things. We had sanitizer at the gate. He didn't want people entering the home. I used to look at him and say, okay.
And but you're going to work every day.
Yeah, I was going. And so at some point he said, by the way, if COVID enters this house, it's you who has brought it.
Now, Grace, I'd like to rope you in at this point in time. I think, like Miranda rightfully said, and Robert, children for the most part have generally enjoyed spending more time with their parents. How do we prepare them for the change? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, as a parent, how do I deal with the guilt of separation, the guilt, the anxiety?
What you're talking about is separation anxiety, and it's normally seen amongst kids, but then also adults face the same thing. Of course, because routines have been different, and of course there's been a lot of time of bonding, and different maybe household rules have changed or have been instilled or have been enacted. Definitely there's going to be more like a drastic change in this. But I think the key to, first of all, you as a parent, how do you deal with this guilt? Separation anxiety is it happens in stages. Yeah, the first is protesting, the second is despair, and then the third is detachment. Yeah. So as a parent, I think you should prepare your child. Yeah.
I'd like us to talk finances now. Now, Robert, we know that some people have sadly lost their jobs. Others have taken a pay cut, so they're having to live off half what they were used to, juggling with. We know that some people have had their savings dwindle, and in some cases, people have actually had their savings depleted. And many of them are wondering, how under God's blue sky are we going to manage with less resources? Very quickly, Robert, in 1.5 minutes, how do we manage with less resources?
I think for me, the basic things that we all need to look out for right now is how do we cut back on spend? There are some costly items that we might be dealing with in our own lives that even under the new normal where we reopen, that we might not get back into. Look at your own personal expenses. You probably need to cut down on housing. You probably need to cut down on transport. If you have an expensive vehicle, it's now a liability, and now it comes out very outrightly clear that liability is not going to serve the purpose. You probably need to rethink. If you need to be cutting down on the number of hours that you're spending going out and hanging out, or the company that you hang out with might not be the company, or it's the company that takes up a lot of your costs, a lot of your income, you probably need to start rethinking and seeing, how do I actually cut back on that? And being able to cut down and have a basic meal, an organic meal at home, spend time with the family, bring down your energy bills, your utility bills, your transport bills. Those translate into savings on the other side of your balance sheet. And I think every single person has the ability to do that. Then you have other habits that you could pick up on. So budgeting. Start picking up on things like budgeting. Set yourself personal goals to save, to invest, to think a bit broadly. and have those actually brought back onto your own table, and relook at the money, your money attitude. What is your attitude towards money? Is it something that you can look to bring in and invest for the long term? What are your medium-term goals? What are your short-term goals? Those are things that we need to actually be able to rethink. As a bank, the very critical conversation that we would want to have with you at this point is, how do we help you create your wealth? And there's no two ways to it. You cannot create wealth unless you're saving or investing. Of course, the other route is stealing, which we do not advocate for. But the two routes for us is a conversation that we would want to have with every single client. Then protect your wealth. I think this is a critical point at which we have a conversation around protection. And our insurance options are really, really offered at a group level. If you come in at a scheme level under a group, in a circle or an investment club, or if you walked in as an individual, I think it's important that now people start seeing insurance as a critical part of preservation of their wealth, especially the risks that have come out clearly, which are medical in nature and could continue coming up. Then the other one, of course, is your estate planning. Very few of us really look at deeply and wonder whether we even have an estate. Shana, I'm sure you have an estate, and
I do.
and when I say estate, it's not the physical estate of buildings and things like that, but you have a portfolio of your investments or your little things that you need to pass on to the next generation. And I think that's a critical conversation that you'd have with us. And then, of course, ultimately, all of us need to start preparing for retirement. There is just no way that you can go through this journey without, you're working so hard and then end up in your retirement and not really having to enjoy your retirement, or having to lean on somebody else, or becoming a burden to the next generation. So those, to me, are very much the areas that I wanted to focus on. But also, just picking up from what I have seen, we have some diaspora customers who have been asking. There is a conversation that's been going on around real estate. It's true that it's right now, it's still perceptive, but it is true that a lot of people would be rethinking space, and that might actually ultimately lead to a hit on the real estate market. And we have a session on Friday that is purely dedicated to real estate. So the masterclass that will be on Friday on the investment clubs, if you're here today, please sign up for our masterclass on Friday. We will be having the head of Knight Frank, who will be coming in. Judy Gasira will be talking specifically about the impact of COVID on real estate and what you can do differently. But yes, whether you're in diaspora or you're locally here, we would want to bank you, and we please feel free to reach out to us. We'll try and make sure that somebody does reach out to you and take your contacts and see how we can be able to contact you.
These are weekly conversations. You are not charged. They are absolutely free. Now more than ever, you have to get as much information as possible, so you understand the opportunities that are available for you as far as investments are concerned, but also group savings.